In 1962, the African Writer series began publishing through Heinemann, a UK publishing imprint, raising international voices from all over Africa, beginning with Chinua Achebe's novel Things Fall Apart, and going on to include works by Cyprian Ekwensi, Olaudah Equiano, Mongo Betty, and Ngũgĩ wa Thiong'o. They emphasized Anglophone African writers, but have also translated other African writers in other languages. The intention behind it was to provide texts that African students could use at university to address the colonial bias in literature. Hello, my name is Lucas, this is a bit of lit. I'm here to talk about Ngũgĩ wa Thiong'o's The River Between. I'm organizing it a lot more because I really love this book and I thought now's the time. I've already wasted January, now's the time to bring in a new format and try things in a different way. If you like it, please let me know. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you're new. I will be trying to do more videos like this, depending on the response. I've got a whole script and everything, but I can't find a way other than filming directly from my iPad or my iPhone while talking about it to do it, but I want to use my camera, so I'm just going to read a little bit as I'm going. Ngũgĩ wa Thiong'o is a Kenyan writer, having written both in English and his native tongue, Gikuyu. His first novel, Weep Not Child, is the 7th in the African Writers series and the first English language novel to be published by an East African writer. When it was published, he went under the name James Ngũgĩ. The novel looks at the relationship between Africans and white settlers in Kenya and focuses on the Mau Mau uprising, which we will talk more about in a video if I ever talk about Weep Not Child, which, given how much I love this book, The River Between, we will. 1 year later, while on a scholarship at the University of Leeds to study for an MA, The River Between was published. The River Between is a novel that continues to follow on the themes from Weep Not Child. Two villages, Kameno and Makuyu, are pushed apart when Christian missionaries forbid the sacred ceremonial rite of female circumcision. One young man, Waiyaki, does what he can to use the knowledge he's learned from the white men encroaching on the land to unite the two villages and repel the colonizers from the ridges. Opposing Waiyaki are Joshua, a priest that has renounced his culture and does everything he can to spread the word of Christ, and Kabonyi, a man that followed Joshua as sort of his right-hand man and later renounced Christianity in the hopes of leading his people to push the white man out of their land. Joshua is driven deeper into his own beliefs when his daughter, Muthoni, leaves in secret to have the operation that will make her a beautiful woman in the eyes of the tribe. This circumcision is a part of the foundation of the culture of these villages, but Joshua expressly refuses, as they are Christians, and it is forbidden, even going so far as to disown Muthoni when he finds out that she will not come back after running away. Unfortunately, she dies due to the operation, causing Joshua to double down on his efforts to eradicate the procedure and convert everyone in the village or the villages to Christianity. Meanwhile, Waiyaki has been training with his father, Chege, an elder in charge of ceremonial rites. Waiyaki must have his second birth and circumcision himself to become a man, which he does. His father, proud and sure of his son's manhood, warns Waiyaki that the hills will need saving, but a son of the hills can lead the way. As he says, "Salvation shall come from the hills, from the blood that flows in me. I say from the same tree a son shall rise, and his duty shall be to lead and save the people." Waiyaki admires his father and takes pride in his village and his ancestors, and loves to learn in Syriana. Hoping his new knowledge can be used to help his people, Waiyaki is doubly warned by his father that while he may be the savior that is prophesied, the only other person that knows the prophecy is Kabonyi, a follower of Joshua at that time. When Waiyaki crosses paths with Muthoni as she dies, taking care of her in her dying moments and sharing her final words with her family, a gradual inflaming of the schism between the two villages occurs. The missionary school bans any students whose families follow the old customs, pushing Waiyaki out, and Kabonyi comes back and starts to look for ways to lead his people in the efforts to push out the white man. There is an internal conflict that arises between Kabonyi and Waiyaki, As the respect the village has for Waiyaki grows as he develops the education infrastructure in the village. Waiyaki's idealism to take the education of the white man to benefit his people rubs village elders like Kabonyi the wrong way. Waiyaki ignores the legitimate concerns of the encroachments and the loss of lands and the introduction of taxes to a foreign government that the people know nothing about. Kabonyi's approach to the problem is twofold. First, he believes he is the one that Murungu, the spiritual being that gave this land to the men and women of the village, is chosen to be the savior. And the best approach is to push them out and isolate the village again, them being the white man. Waiyaki struggles with his own self-doubts as he bumps against the forces of Joshua and Kabonyi. His only solace is Nyambura, the sister of Muthoni that he loves. He proposes to her, though she initially rejects him. Waiyaki goes to her village a few times, once to sit in church, where he reflects on his doubts and what the future will bring and how to unite the villages, and later to find more teachers for his schools. Kabonyi takes this opportunity to discredit Waiyaki in front of the other elders and everyone. The Kiama, a council of elders and leaders, plan to cause more harm to Joshua's followers and Joshua himself. Waiyaki loses his temper over this, causing a wider rift between him and the elders, and goes to warn Joshua, who will not hear of it. Nyambura takes to him and they head back. Waiyaki goes to a grove by himself and realizes he's going to be made to choose between Nyambura and the village, as he took an oath, and he knows everyone will see it. Him choosing her will be a contamination. He comes back to where he had his circumcision and confronts Kabonyi. Kabonyi gains the upper hand when he has his son, Kameno, bring out Nyambura. Everyone loses their faith in Waiyaki, seeing him as selling them out to the white man because he is set to marry the daughter of Joshua, Nyambura, while touting the benefits of the white man's education. And Kabonyi wins the power struggle, the power of the battle of the wills. The two lovers are left in the custody of the Kiama. And that's about it. I want to, that's the plot and also kind of what it's about. It's just such an excellent book, I have to say. I mean, I am enamored with the book in a way, and that's why I wanted to take this a little more seriously. I want to read some quotes and talk about what they meant to me or what I think they're trying to say. Feel free to let me know what you think. Let me know I'm wrong or what have you. At the beginning, very first paragraph, the two ridges lay side by side. One was Kameno, the other was Makuyu. Between them was a valley. It was called the Valley of Life. Behind Kameno and Makuyu were many more valley sand ridges, lying without any discernible plan. They were like many sleeping lions which never woke. They just slept, the big deep sleep of their creator. And in a way, you know, I think this shows that there is a tension there already, even before colonizers came to this land. And it has been exacerbated by this cultural shift from, and this encroachment and taking of land and of wealth with taxes. It's just brought to a fulcrum and just becomes wild. There's one white character as far as I can tell. Others are referred to, but there's only one white character, and that is Livingstone. He is a man who's been there for 25 years. We get this about him: determined to learn the customs of the natives and not to repeat the mistake of the missionaries of the earlier generation who had caused tribal warfare and civil strife because they could not appreciate the importance of tribal customs. And then it goes on. I found this just ridiculous and hypocritical because he is essentially bringing that same kind of trouble. He considers himself actually sort of very open-minded, but then he gets very strong against, pushing down against circumcision and these kind of things, and doubling down on preaching Christianity. So I've got a little quote about circumcision. It's just a short thing, and we'll extrapolate from there. It was at the core of the social structure and something that gave meaning to a man's life, in the custom and the spiritual basis of... So we've got a little quote about circumcision. For me, it was quite difficult to get past early on, this idea about how important it was, but it's important to remember it's a different culture, and also it's a foundational thing. We'll see. It was at the core of the social structure and something that gave meaning to a man's life, and of course a woman's life. It's a rite of passage into manhood or into womanhood, into becoming a leader or a husband, wife, etc. And it has value outside of aesthetics or anything like that, or whatever. It is a cultural signifier, and it is important, and removing that signifier makes the rest of the culture confusing, because this is an important thing that is sort of necessary as a foundation for how the rest of the culture works, and without it, and without anything replacing it, it's sort of devastating. And it is up to the village to change, or the culture to change itself, not be changed from outside forces, because that's where natural change can occur, and it doesn't have to be so devastating. Whether male or female circumcision is right or wrong, it is something that sort of should be decided within the community. And there is, I believe, right at the end, there is a great, fairly long quote. For Waiyaki knew that not all the ways of the white man were bad. Even his religion was not essentially bad. Some good, some truth shone through it. But the religion, the faith, needed washing, cleaning away all the dirt, leaving only the eternal. And that eternal that was the truth had to be reconciled to the traditions of the people. A people's traditions could not be swept away overnight. That way lay disintegration. Such a tribe would have no roots, for a people's roots were in their traditions, going back to the past, the very beginning. Gikuyu and Mumbi, a religion that took no count of people's way of life, a religion that did not recognize spots of beauty and truths in their way of life, was useless. It would not satisfy. It would not be a living experience, a source of life and vitality. It would only maim a man's soul, making him fanatically cling to whatever promised security. Otherwise, he would be lost. And this is where Waiyaki considers Joshua and the way he's become. He has renounced everything, and now he has to cling to Christianity because he has no foundation anymore except what he's been taught to believe. And in a way, he's learned to hate himself and deny himself of his own life and culture and upbringing, and love and sort of worship whiteness, as we see in this quote. What one admired in Joshua was his fidelity. Ever since he took to the new faith, he had remained true to Livingstone and his God. And the important thing there is that there is no comma between Livingstone and his God. Livingstone is a white man. And, the white man brought Christianity, brought the idea of the Judeo-Christian God to Joshua. He even has Judeo-Christian name. And, it's just really heartbreaking. Joshua, of course, does terrible things, reasons out why it's acceptable for him to beat his wife, sort of rejects both of his children. I mean, he's quite a bad guy, but in a way, you can understand him. You have to think about what he's thinking. He's thinking that it's this way, the Christian way, or eternal damnation in hell. And of course, he's come to hate himself and his culture and his people in a way, and love and worship whiteness and God and Christianity, which is unfortunate. And not unfortunate, it's tragic. And of course, by the end, there's one last quote I would like to share. This is after Kabonyi has won the Battle of the Wills, for who will lead the tribe into the future. And it says, Waiyaki and Nyambura would be placed in the hands of the Kiama, who would judge them and decide what to do. It was the best thing, and the crowd roared back, yes! As if the burden of judging their teacher were removed from them. They went away quickly, glad that he was hidden by the darkness, for they did not want to look at the teacher, and they did not want to read their guilt in one another's faces. Neither did they want to speak to one another, for they knew full well what they had done to Waiyaki, and yet they did not want to know. And, yeah, man, this book is just heartbreaking. There's a little bit more after that, and it's just a tragedy, man. It's very open-ended and ambiguous. What will Kabonyi do to Waiyaki and Nyambura? We don't know, because it just ends with them in their custody, the Kiama's custody. And I love the characters in this book. I mean, they're so fleshed out. They want things. They constantly are frustrated and thinking about all these things and doubting themselves and wondering, what do I do next? Waiyaki is constantly thinking about what his father told him, that a savior will come from the hills, and he's been led to believe that he will be that person, and he wants to live his life much like his father and his grandfather, all his ancestors. He wants to honor them and honor his people by doing what's right. He's got sort of these really progressive ideas about using the education that he's gained from going to school in Syriana with the white man's education. He wants to give that to his people and hopefully be able to unite the two villages, Kameno and Makuyu. I've forgotten again. And he really believes that education is the way to go. However, he's sort of blindsided to the fact that the white man is bringing taxes and taking land and encroaching, which Kabonyi is focused on. He considers the most important thing to do, one, let him be in charge, and also push them out, because ever since they came, things have started to get worse, and the divide between the two villages has strengthened. And it is a shame, because Waiyaki really considers like having Nyambura in his life would be his salvation, and would be able in a way to show that unity can happen. But his idealism gets in the way of a man that basically is saying, to put it in maybe modern politics terms, immigrants are out to get us, the economy is bad because the rain didn't come down well enough and the crops are bad, and they're raising taxes on us, and these kind of things. He's very conservative in that sense, but he's not wrong. I mean, his ideas in a way are not wrong. He does act like a power-hungry person, but he's also seeing his land and his culture being taken from him. And here's this young man who's been educated by this outside force and is gaining a lot of goodwill from the people, and is educating the kids with the education that he got from these people who are taking everything away that he's known. I mean, from his perspective, like, yeah, he's pretty power hungry, but he's also does seem to be doing what he thinks is actually going to help. So you've got this great conflict going there, and I just think it's incredible. That's all I've really got to say. Thank you. I will try to organize it in a different way. I'll try this a couple more times. If it's just okay, if the response is just okay, I've got another project that I'm finally working on the side. We'll see how that one goes too. But if it's just okay, then I will just go back to rambling as I normally do, because this takes a lot more effort. But if you like this, again, comment, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I will see you next time with another book.